The roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Forrester. Absent. Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Councilmember Wills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have no presentations and awards this evening or personal appearances, so we'll turn to the staff report. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report tonight for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, in your packet tonight was a copy of the monthly report for February for the Development Services Department. February was a slow month for permitting, unfortunately, but inspections were fairly busy. A couple projects to note. You've probably all seen significant vertical construction is occurring at the depot, the Watermark project there behind Sam's Club. Their clubhouse and fitness center, and I think one of their residential buildings may have started vertical construction as well. So a lot of inspections happening at that property. The staff spent a lot of time in February at the Southern Glazers facility down at the Commerce Center. They continue to build out the interior of their, the tenant finish within their building. Mr. Warner told me last week about the extensive nature of their conveyor systems and racking and mezzanine that they've installed in that facility. To my shock, there's still another year left of construction for them to continue that project before they're fully operational. So again, a lot of inspection activity happening down there between the city and the fire district for that project. The city did receive plans for the tenant finish for Newly, both on the developer side and the tenant side, so that project is moving forward. Today, actually, we closed on the bonds for that project, so it's moving full steam ahead as well. And that would really conclude the activity and the monthly report for February. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any questions of Mr. Gress? Yes, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had an off-topic question, but more on an economic development side. I noticed in social media, one of the businesses, I think it was Schlotsky's, departed the area, and the social media comment, I think it said, issues with staff. And I know that in Whataburger, initially early on, there was an issue with staff. Do we have any exit survey-like information that kind of speaks to, is that a trend that's happening in this area, or is that more Chamber of Commerce related?
So immediately upon Schlotsky's closing, I know Mr. Keller reached out to the ownership group of Schlotsky's and asked if there was anything else the city could do to help, or if there was anything that we could have helped out with through the process. They did indicate that their specific issues were with staffing and the number of employees that they wanted on staff to run a shift. But the same would go for Whataburger. I know the issue that they had there was staffing for multiple locations. A lot of employees that had signed up for the Raymore location got trained at that facility and then got moved to, I think it was Overland Park, where they had another store opening ahead of ours, which kind of restarted the clock for this store here in Raymore to start hiring. We don't typically do like an exit interview, but every now and then we'll reach out and have a conversation with the business about what particular issues they might be having. And I know the Chamber of Commerce is really good about sharing information on social media about businesses that are hiring and so forth to try and help them out.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Mr. Barber, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gress, so Southern Glazers, they kind of educate me a little bit. It's going to be over 2 years by the time they start operation. Is that correct?
That's correct. I know initially back when the council approved that final project, their first delay was material shortages with steel to start on the racking and the different components of their project. They finally got caught up with that. And so I think right now it's just the, Mr. Warner was explaining, like, again, the intricacy of the equipment that they put in that facility being the types of material that they handle. So I don't know for certain whether it's that's causing the lengthy delay or if it's just the nature of how large the project is. But it's been about a year so far since that company purchased that facility. It would be about 2 years by the time they estimate to be done.
So your crystal ball, would you predict that Newly may open before Southern Glazers?
We've been told, and Grant Harrison with Van Trust, who had conversations with them as well as here this evening, we've been told that they hope to be operational by the end of this year in terms of their facility.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Fearborn. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. I would ask Chief to make a report for the police department.
Good evening, everyone. I just have one item where the PD is happy to announce we're going to be hosting the Citizens Academy. We're going to kick off on March 29th, and it's going to run to May 17th. It's going to be every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., and it looks like several people up there are interested in coming and joining the Academy experience. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions, Mr. Wilson, or Chief Wilson? Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, Chief. Wanted to talk with the council just very briefly about the work session next week. Currently, we do have one rather important item on the agenda for that night. The court experienced their audit last week under the new Show Me Courts, and there are a number of code changes that are being required due to that audit, and we want to be able to explain each of those changes to the council. There's a little bit of a complication in that there is the distinct possibility that several of us, once again, may have to be in Jefferson City next Monday afternoon into Monday night and on into Tuesday as we get a little bit closer to the end of the week. We're gonna be having to do, I'm sure, some double duty there. Some people are gonna be going down pretty late. But I will be letting the council know ahead of time. But right now, we do have an agenda item for you next Monday night. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Any questions of Mr. Fearborn? All right. We'll move on in the agenda. We'll go down to the consent agenda. We have three items on the consent agenda this evening. The council meeting, or city council special meeting minutes for February the 16th, city council meeting minutes for February the 27th, and the acceptance of public improvements, Timber Trails third plat. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items as stated.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries 7-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3789 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3789 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Terry Snelling Contracting Incorporated for the 2023 curb replacement project, project number 23-420-201, in the amount of $630,695, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3789, award of contract for the 2023 curb project.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3789. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could please have the second reading of Bill 3790 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3790 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Tandem Paving Company Incorporated for the 2023 street preservation project, city project number 23-421-201, in the amount of $1,115,311.90, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you, ma'am. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3790, award of contract for the 2023 street preservation.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3790. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3784 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3784 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Parkside First Plat, lots 1 through 28 and tracts A through F, a subdivision of land located in the northwest quarter of Section 9, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
I move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3784, Parkside First Final Plat, lots 1 through 28 and tracts A through F.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3784. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3785 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3785 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Parkside Park First Plat, a tract of land located partially in the southeast quarter of Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, and partially in the northeast quarter of Section 9, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, all in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there are no further questions on this, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve Bill 3785, Parkside Park First Plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3785. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3786 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3786 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Sunset Lane First Plat, a tract of land located partially in Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, and partially in Section 9, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, all in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3786, Sunset Lane First Final Plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3786. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Okay, please have the second reading of Bill 3787 by title only.
The second reading of Bill 3787 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, directing the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding for the Parkside subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3787, First Amendment to Parkside Memorandum of Understanding.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3787. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3788 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3788 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a street design and construction reimbursement agreement with Triangle 2 LLC and Triangle 4 LLC to design and construct a portion of the extension of 163rd Street adjacent to the Parkside subdivision.
Thank you, ma'am. If there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the second reading of Bill 3788, 163rd Street Design and Construction Reimbursement Agreement.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3788. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. The last item under new business, as you'll recall, was the public hearing was opened. It will be continued to be open, but I'll have the is this the first reading, actually, or the second?
This will actually be the first reading,
This
sir.
will actually be the first reading of Bill 3795 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3795 by title only, an ordinance approving a redevelopment plan for industrial development project and a development and performance agreement between the City of Raymore, Missouri and Van Trust Development, LLC, for the purpose of providing funds to pay for the costs of improving an industrial development project in the city and authorizing certain agreements and other actions by the city.
Thank you. As I previously stated, the public hearing carried over to tonight for this particular item, but I'll turn to Mr. Fearborn for a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to begin the staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, I'll introduce the topic, and then tonight here this evening is also representative from Van Trust Real Estate, Grant Harrison, as well as Economic Development Council, Gilmore and Bell. The request before the council this evening is approval of a Chapter 100 development agreement and performance agreement for the Raymore Commerce South development, approximately 260 acres south of 195th Street, east of I-49. At the previous meeting, the council opened the public hearing, or the tax hearing, for taxing jurisdictions to provide comments, while city staff was allowed the opportunity to finalize the terms and conditions of the performance agreement. The council may recall that in January of this year, the city's Economic Development Department was successful in obtaining a sizable grant from MoDOT as part of the governor's cost share program, which partially funds improvements within this project and also at the intersection of North Cass and Dean. And so that time allowed us to finalize the incorporation of that funding into the development agreement, which is before the council this evening. I would invite Special Counsel Sarah Granath from Gilmore and Bell to provide a staff report. And again, Mr. Harrison is also in the audience for questions and comments as well. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As Mr. Gress stated, this is for a Chapter 100 hearing for Chapter 100 abatement with Van Trust Development. This is just to the south of the current Raymore Commerce Center that was previously approved. And the abatement terms are the same as that development. So it will go for 20 years on real property, and this is based 20 years from the start of each bond issuance. It will be phased out just like the first project was. The plan allows a little bit of flexibility on the ultimate build-out of the multiple buildings. You'll recall that we had to previously come forward on the last the original Raymore Commerce Center to amend the plan to allow for actually additional capacity and square footage. We're hoping that the wording in the current plan will allow us to not have to do that. However, each bond issuance will still come before the council, and there are still, certain requirements in the plan that I will go over to allow council control over exactly what's built there. The plan contemplates between 1.75 and 3.5 million square feet of development, and a total investment of between $200 million and $350 million. The plan would be for Van Trust to have the ability to lease or sell out to various entities, similar to how Southern Glazers has done, or to Newly with the different leases for those bond issuances. The initial infrastructure would be complete by the end of 2024, and there are some additional benchmarks that I'll cover really quick. The development agreement requires the developer to start the next phase of development within 24 months of substantial completion of the last project. So that will help keep this going. And all buildings must be completed by the end of 2031, unless the developer comes back before the council and asks for an extension on that. The pilot payments are again calculated by square feet in each building, so that would rise and fall proportionally with what's actually built. The plan and the cost-benefit analysis is using the assumption of 3,075,000 square feet built, and kind of on that basis, the abatement would be approximately $84 million over the life of the plan, and pilots would equal about $17 million over the life of the plan. The company would also receive a sales and use tax exemption on construction materials. And as Mr. Gress mentioned, there's one component here that is going to add a little bit of a difference from the original, or the Raymore Commerce Center originally did. The city applied for and received the MoDOT Governor's Transportation Cost Share Program grant. And the portion we're focusing on here is the funds allocated for the Dean and 195th Street improvements. From those funds, the company will be reimbursed up to $2,751,933 for their improvements that they're constructing, the public improvements to that Dean and 195th Street intersection. The development agreement also allows that if for some reason those funds are not used to reimburse the company can be reimbursed up to $1.25 million in excise tax fees and building permit fees, either to be paid or that have been paid in exchange for not receiving that cost share funds from the city. So before you tonight is an ordinance to approve the plan and cost benefit analysis and development agreement. As I mentioned, each issuance of bonds will come back before the council to be considered at that time. So I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Anything additional from staff?
I would just encourage the council, because the tax hearing is still open, if there are any taxing jurisdictions in the audience, they would still have the opportunity to provide comments on the item. Last but not least, Van Trust is here if there are any questions about
Okay.
the specifics of the project.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Grant Harrison, Van Trust Real Estate, 4900 Main Street, Suite 400, Kansas City, Missouri, 64113. As David said, I'm here to answer any questions. We really appreciate the consideration of it this evening. We think this is a natural extension of Raymore South or Raymore North Commerce Center, and look forward to leasing the rest of that up and hopefully kickstarting this 260 acres to the south.
Excellent. Any questions of Mr. Harrison? All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Did want to let the council know that the superintendent of schools and I had a very productive meeting last week. The plan that we're hoping to come to with the school district in the very near future, we both mentioned the possibility of the work session with a joint work session with the council on May 1. The superintendent was aware that this one is coming forward, the possibility of the Timber Trails one coming forward possibly before then, but a joint work session to kind of re-educate everybody on the elements of Chapter 100 and where things fall with that, and kind of hear back from the school board after they have the opportunity to hear from Mr. Gress and myself on Chapter 100 on what elements they would like to see. You all have kind of heard from them individually at times. And then if you all would like to hear anything from them, it'll give you the opportunity to ask for some questions. Not necessarily looking for a negotiation, but just to get to a mutual spot where he could go back with his board, I could come back with you all, and find a path forward, a mutual path forward when we're looking at these. I think it's a good plan. I think we have a solid plan in place. Just wanted to alert you to that this evening during the ability for the taxing jurisdictions to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And if any of those taxing district representatives are here this evening and you wish to comment, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Did you have anything additional, Jonathan?
You do have your public hearing open.
Yep. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Are there any additional questions for staff or the developer or our special counsel? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend,
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3795, Raymore Commerce Center South Chapter 100 Plan for Industrial Development.
thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3795. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Your Honor.
Mr. Holman.
Sir, it's my duty to inform you at this time that I feel obligated to recuse myself and remove myself from the dais prior to the reading of Bill 3794, which is the next item of business under new business this evening. I have a prior relationship with the owner of the business of which the bill is the subject of. I have done business with him in the past. He is a neighbor and is a member of the homeowners association. We are currently doing business with him. Therefore, to avoid any possible appearance of conflict of interest, I feel it's imperative that I remove myself at this time.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3794 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3794 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Terry Snelling Construction Incorporated for the 2023.
We're on the wrong
That's
one.
We're on the wrong one.
You said
3794, yeah? Is it not right online there? Yeah, I can,
I've got you covered.
you got it there?
An ordinance of this, the first reading of Bill 3794 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Outdoor Solutions LLC for 2023 lawn and landscape services at identified locations throughout the city.
Thank you, sir. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Murdoch to make a staff report on this item.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you in this particular bill is the award of contract for our lawn and landscape services. This project did go out to bid. We had 4 different bids come in for this particular project. Outdoor Solutions was deemed the lowest and best bidder. As you probably saw in the packet, we do have them on contract for this upcoming year for the mowing of all of the facilities here around the city, including City Hall, Centerview, and Public Works. And then they'll also do our landscaping services on multiple medians and islands throughout the city. Thank you, Councilmember Burke. There was one quick correction to the contract. You probably saw on the medians. It said Lucy Webb and Center. That's Lucy Webb and Cantor. The applicant, or in this case, Outdoor Solutions, also knows that and has been given that correction as well within the contract. Lastly, this is for this year, but it does have the automatic renewal for 2 additional years within this particular contract. Staff does recommend awarding contract to Outdoor Solutions LLC, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Any questions of Mr. Murdoch? Yes, Mr. Berenson.
Just a quick comment. I don't have a relationship with this owner, but I do know from other vendors or other people that have used them, they do outstanding work, and I'm always happy to see a local vendor receive a contract or potentially receive a contract in the city. So glad to see Outdoor Solutions be hopefully the winner of this bid. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate that. Anyone else? There's nothing else. I entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3794, award of contract for lawn and landscape services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3794. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries 6. And would that be an abstention or just a recusal? 6 yeses, no nos.
It'd be considered an abstention, sir.
Okay, we'll mark it as such then. Move on to the next item. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3791 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3791 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, correcting the legal description for the Oak Ridge Farms 4th Plat rezoning application and correcting Scrivener's errors within.
And this also requires a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing at this time and ask Mr. Fearborn if there's a staff report.
I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this item, sir.
That's right.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, the item before you this evening in Bill 3791 is a correction to a previous bill that the council approved back in April of 2022, which was the Oak Ridge Farms 4th phase rezoning. If the council recalls, that was the rezoning of approximately 9 acres located adjacent to 58 Highway or North Madison, which involved the preservation of 2 commercial lots that abut 58, and the land behind that was rezoned to R3B to allow, R3A to allow for the development of the 4th phase of the Oak Ridge Farms development. Within that preliminary plan, as the surveyor went through their surveying for the 2 unplatted lots that were part of that, When the applicant filed their final plat application, which was recently approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and Council, staff noticed that there were some inconsistencies in the survey description for 2 of those lots. And so the bill before you all this evening simply corrects that description and makes it accurate with what was presented in the staff reports to the council and to the neighbors as part of that. Nothing about the project has changed to date. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the replat that you'll hear in just a moment at their previous meeting. This simply corrects the record of what was rezoned or proposed to be rezoned within that bill so that staff can accurately reflect that on our zoning maps with the way that we map those. The applicant is here this evening if there's any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions myself.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Are there any questions of Mr. Gress or the applicant? If there are none, there is a public hearing open at this time. If anyone from the public would like to address the council on this topic, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. I see no one coming forward, so I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I'll entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3791, correction to Oak Ridge Farms 4th plat rezoning legal description.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Sir, Councilmember Holman, Ward 3, let the record reflect I have rejoined the council at the conclusion of the reading and disposition of Bill 3794, and I will second the motion.
Thank you, sir. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3791. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3792 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3792 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Oak Ridge Farms 4th plat lots 61 through 84, a replat of lots 58, Oak Ridge Farms 4th plat.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. The request here before the council, now with the correct legal description, is a request by the developer to further subdivide Lot 58, which is the portion of that project that was rezoned for the R3A zoning district. Originally, that lot was platted as one singular lot that contained multiple dwelling units and buildings. In further discussions and surveying with the applicant, they have requested to further subdivide that into 24 individual lots, each containing their own individual building. Within the request, staff did review the application to make sure it still complied with the site plan and the final plat that the Planning and Zoning Commission approved originally. All of the buildings within this development remain in the exact same place. This simply just splits up those buildings into individual lots. The applicant, Ashley Siebert, is in the audience to answer any questions if the council has them, but that would conclude staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Are there any questions of staff or the applicant? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve Bill 3792, Oak Ridge Farms 4th plat lots 61 through 84, and replat of Lot 58.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, Your Honor, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3792. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. And last item under new business, could I please have the first reading of Bill 3793 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3793 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, establishing stop signs within the city limits of Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Mr. Krass will be making a staff report on this item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. If council will recall at a recent work session, we discussed the change in the traffic patterns that were going to possibly occur within the Timber Trails subdivision with the completion of the Timber Trails 3rd plat, and at that time made some recommendations for additional stop signs within the subdivision. We are now bringing those forward for a formal approval. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Krass? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3793, establishing stop signs within the Timber Trails development.
Thank you, sir. Was there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3793. Any further discussion? Mr. Townsend?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank staff and Mr. Gress for putting this together. I think when you had the work session, there was a concern about the stop signs or lack thereof, as you see with the map within this particular development. And this would certainly help the residents because with that particular intersection at Dean and Lucy Webb, that this seems to be the pass-through to avoid those that don't know how to use a roundabout. And so this would certainly ease some of the concerns of the kids who ride the bikes in the streets and around the neighborhood. So thank you again for putting this forward.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public comments and move on to mayor-council communication. And I'll start with Mr. Holman tonight. Start with you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I had but one thing. Missed it. My error at the beginning of the meeting. I should have asked for a moment of silence for the Herman, Missouri officer that was murdered in the line of duty last night or earlier this morning. Sir, keep him and his family in your prayers. That's all I have.
Well, it certainly doesn't prevent us from doing that now, so I would ask that we take a time for a moment of silence for the loss of that officer. Thank you, Mr. Holman. I'll move on to Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to give my condolences to the family of Heather Crouch. She was 44 years old, passed away just a few days ago. She was a neighbor who had emailed me from time to time, and I appreciated her questions. Please keep the families, the Crouchers and the Rickus in your heart. The second thing I wanted to say, found out recently that my son William's Missouri National Guard unit is being deployed to the Mexican border coming up in October to relieve the troops that are stationed there, that have been stationed there since last year. And I wanted to take this time to thank the troops that are there currently protecting our border.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Abdelgawad?
Nothing tonight, sir.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wills?
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to direct the attention to you tonight. You and I had the pleasure of meeting with a person that had some concerns, and I'm not going to mention what the concerns are because I'm tired of that word. But all I want to say is that I really appreciate your engagement and leadership, and it really showed because the public place that we are at, you barely got out of there without the citizens of Raymore thanking you and shaking your hand. And so having you as our head and spokesperson for our city, I've never been prouder. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Mr. Berenson?
No comments tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Townsend?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo sentiments and comments of the council members, but especially Mr. Barber. Appreciate your leadership and being out front with respect to this issue that's before us. And I also would like to thank the residents within the community and their decorum when it comes to this particular process and this issue that we're faced with, because no matter the issue or the comments that are on social media, the community returns back to and brings the comments back to a professional and very calming manner. It certainly could get out of hand, but I think looking at the comments and how the community is keeping the narrative and keeping the focus where it should be, and not getting down and to use a pun, getting in the dirt and getting in the trash. And I appreciate our community and the residents who are stand above board, stand above reproach. And as we continue to fight, as we reach out, as the mayor and the core team has done so diligently in that effort. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all the staff and council members and others who are leaning pretty heavily into this effort to make sure that we come out on top. So Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Appreciate that. And to echo your comments, I too am very proud, as all of us are, of our community and the way they've stepped forward and joined hands with us to fight this battle. It may take a little while longer than what we had hoped for, but I'm sure we'll have success in the end. Today I was listening to our president talk about the banking crisis. Well, he gave 6 points as to what his administration was going to do. But one of those points, the third point of that, and you can look it up online if you like, but the third point he made, and this is verbatim, he says, after he talked about how the people who had money in the bank would be protected by the FDIC and how the taxpayers would not be out any money. It's an account that the banks pay to insure their depositors. But the next remark he said that investors in the bank will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. And that's how capitalism works. I thought, as it relates to what's going on and we're facing right now, as the argument is being made in the Missouri House of Representatives that we're somehow interceding in the middle of a game, which I'm terribly insulted by, but that they've invested money in this and they deserve to have it seen through. You know, I thought the president said it succinctly today when he made that statement, and I hope they'll take it to heart, and so will our lawmakers. And lastly, I want to thank Brandon for all his hard work that he's done for the city while here. We're going to miss you. We won't have another official meeting before your departure, sir, on March the 24th. It's been great working with you. Just today, we had a visit on some of the successes and some of the things to look forward to here in the near future. And I appreciate the team that you and David and the rest in community development have made. And you will be missed, sir. And we wish you the best of luck, though, in your future endeavor. And with that, I will ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that the Raymore City Council move into executive session to discuss litigation as authorized by revised Missouri statute, paragraph 610.021, subparagraph 1.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Motion made and seconded to go into executive session. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Berenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Forrester? Absent. Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
Councilmember Wills?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now go into executive session. At the end of executive session, we will come back out for a final adjournment. Thank you.